Welcome to Miyconst Hardware. I have not yet fully recovered, but my voice is kinda back, so this video will be without my face. Here I'm going to tell you about test results of the Lenovo P520 workstation with 4 memory sticks or in quad-channel configuration. I already have a little video where I do preview of Lenovo P520 workstation, but back then I had only 2 memory sticks, so the quad-channel believers were pretty upset. This time I have 4 identical 16GB memory sticks for 64GB of memory in quad-channel configuration. The memory still runs a DDR4 2666 CL19. Here I need to remind you that the Lenovo P520 BIOS is fully locked and there are no options to adjust memory timings or do any sorts of tuning. So let's start with Aida64 memory speed comparison. Of course, moving from dual channel to quad channel configuration, the read-write and copy speed is almost doubled, but unfortunately the memory latency has also increased. With just 2 memory sticks, the memory latency is about 79.5 nanoseconds, but with 4 memory sticks, the latency jumps to 87.5 nanoseconds. I don't know how Aida64 measures memory latency and what exactly is measured here, but with the dual channel configuration the memory latency is less compared to the quad channel configuration. I have performed this test multiple times just to receive exactly the same numbers. Another interesting test is core-to-core latency, and here I'm going to compare W-2150B with the EPYC 2697V3. But I need to mention that EPYC 2697V3 was tested without hyperthreading. It means that there are no results when the same core communicates with itself through a hyperthread. So overall results are very similar, and W2150B is not that far behind from EPYC 2697V3. On average, W2150B has latency of about 41 nanoseconds, while EPYC 2697V3 on average has latency of about 39 nanoseconds. This difference alone cannot explain why EPYC 2697V3 is so much better in gaming. W2150B has many architectural changes compared to the V3 series, and overall, altogether, it gives much worse gaming experience and much worse gaming performance compared to EPYC 2697V3. Talking about the gaming results, I apologize for my Rainbow Six extraction numbers from the previous video. There I reported that W2150B is able to deliver 9825 FPS, while EPYC 2697V3 renders massive 251 310 FPS. And even though I have used the same configuration and the same graphical preset, I did not use the same version of the game. Rainbow Six Extraction received an update between these two tests, and after I retested E5v3 with this update, I received other numbers. I don't know what has happened with the game, but this time EPYC 2697v3 is only able to deliver 9720 FPS. And even though it is still a few FPS faster than W2150B that delivers 9516 FPS, the difference is not that big. Another interesting game is Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, and here again I cannot compare the numbers one-to-one because the game decided to update itself right after I have retested EPYC 2697v3. Nevertheless, here with the built-in gaming benchmark, W2150B beats E5v3. W2150B scores 128-176 FPS, while EPYC 2697v3 only 99-138 FPS. Still, I need to again emphasize that these numbers come from different game versions, and I don't have capacity to dismount my EPYC 2697v3 system and retest it again with RX 7900 XT. The last interesting result worth mentioning is Horizon Zero Dawn. Here EPYC 2697v3 actually loses to W2150B. W2150B scores 105-152 FPS, while 2697v3 is a few FPS slower, 102-150 FPS. Even though the difference is negligible, W2150B managed to come on top. In all other tested games, EPYC 2697v3 is either a little faster or a lot faster, and on average EPYC 2697v3 scores 100-171 FPS, while W2150B is only able to deliver 96-153 FPS. Overall, this is not a gigantic difference, and if you keep in mind that I test with RX 7900 XT, then W2150B might still be a good budget alternative once the prices go down. Nevertheless, I consider it to be a disappointment that the much newer LGA 2066 CPU is not able to even match the old EPYC 2697V3 from the LGA 2011 version 3 platform. Additionally to my standard benchmarking games, I have a few extra results, starting with Assassin's Creed Mirage. Here, Xeon W2150B at 1080p with ultra-high preset is able to deliver 7214 FPS, so this is pretty good. Another test is Starfield, and here I test 1080p with a high preset. FSR was manually disabled. With this configuration, W2150B is only able to score 3854 FPS. Overall, the game is playable, but if you will be able to enjoy it with such performance or no, this is up to you. Here I'm testing with one of the most demanding game section, the Atlantis City, so in other locations the FPS numbers will be slightly higher, so if you really want to, you can play Starfield with the W2150B. Another tested game is Counter-Strike 2. Here I test 1080p resolution, low graphical preset, Dust 2 map and team deathmatch. On average, I have got 8891 FPS. And if I compare it to EPYC 2697V3, then a V3 CPU is faster even if I use slower RX 6700 XT. With EPYC 2697V3, I have got 112-240 FPS. I have also tested Shatterline. It's another shooter that some of you might know. Here I tested 1080p screen resolution, low graphical preset, and two different modes. 3 versus 3 we have 132-226 FPS on average, but if I move to other PvP modes, then I get only 75-138 FPS. Shatterline is still under development and the game uses DirectX 11 API, so it is not a very good match for Xeon W2150B. With such configuration, the performance is not only the best, but we also get some unknown stutters in the game. One more game where I have got stutters and dips is Battlefield 2042. With all the latest updates, the game refuses to work with MSI Afterburner, so I cannot show FPS numbers on the screen, but using AMD Radeon Adrenaline software, I managed to do some sort of FPS testing. Here I use 1080p screen resolution, high graphical preset, and exposure map with 128 players. On average, FPS numbers were around 130, but frequently the dips would go down to 40-50 FPS, and that's rather frustrating. Finally, I have also checked online performance of Modern Warfare 2. Here I test the same 1080p screen resolution, high graphical preset, Al-Mazrah map, and massive resurgence quads mode. On average, the performance stays around 80-90 FPS, but unlike Battlefield 2042, Modern Warfare 2 does not stutter, and these 80-90 FPS are very solid and very stable, so even with the W2150B it is possible to enjoy the game. Overall, as expected, quad-channel memory configuration did not save LGA 2666 platform from a defeat. Xeon W2150B, that has much higher clock frequency and theoretically better IPC, is not able to even match EPYC 2697V3. EPYC 2697V3 is a much older CPU, but thanks to the large amount of L3 cache and better latency, this CPU is able to beat much newer W2150B when it comes to gaming. Even though these results might be disappointing to someone, I have to say thanks for watching, thanks for listening, I hope it was interesting, and I hope I have helped someone. Bye for now.